The Ant and the Grasshopper. I could not help thinking of this fable when the other day I saw George Ramsay lunching by himself in a restaurant. I never saw anyone wear an expression of such deep gloom. He was staring into space. He looked as though the burden of the whole world sat on his shoulders. I was sorry for him. I suspected at once that his unfortunate brother had been causing trouble again. I went up to him and held out my hand. "How are you?" I asked. "I'm not in hilarious spirits," he answered. "Is it Tom again?" He sighed. "Yes, it's Tom again." "Why don't you chuck him? You have done everything in the world for him. You must know by now that he is quite hopeless. I suppose every family has a black sheep. Tom had been a sore trial to him for 20 years. He had begun life decently enough. He went into business, married, and had 2 children. The Ramsays were perfectly respectable people, and there was every reason to suppose that Tom Ramsay would have a useful and honorable career. But one day, without warning, he announced that he did not like work and that he wasn't suited for marriage. He wanted to enjoy himself. He would listen to no expostulation. He left his wife and his office. He had a little money, and he spent 2 happy years in various capitals of Europe. Rumors of his doings reached his relations from time to time, and they were profoundly shocked. He certainly had a very good time. They shook their head and asked what will happen when his money was spent. They soon found out he borrowed. He was charming and unscrupulous. I have never met anyone to whom it was more difficult to refuse a loan. He made a steady income from his friends, and he made friends easily. But he always said that money you spent on necessities was boring. The money that was amusing to spend was the money you spent on luxury. For this he depended on his brother George. He did not waste his charm on him. George was a serious man and insensible to such enticements. George was a respectable. Once or twice she fell to Tom's promises, amendment, and gave him considerable sums in order that he might make a fresh start. On these, Tom bought a motor car and some very nice jewelry. But when circumstances forced George to realize that his brother will never settle down and he washed his hands of him, Tom, without a qualm, began to blackmail him. It was not very nice for a respectable lawyer and his brother seeking cocktails behind the bar of his favorite restaurant to see him waiting on the box seat of a taxi outside his club. Tom said that to serve in a bar or to drive a taxi was a perfectly decent occupation, but if George could oblige him with a couple of £100, he did not mind for the honor of the family giving it up. George peaked. Once Tom nearly went to prison. George was terribly upset. He went world into the whole discreditable affair. Really, Tom had gone too far. He had been vile, thoughtless, and selfish, but he had never before done anything dishonest, by which George meant illegal, and if he were prosecuted, he would assuredly be convicted. But you cannot allow your only brother to go to gaol. The man Tom had cheated was a vindictive. He was determined to take the matter into court. He said Tom was a scoundrel and should be punished. It cost George an infinite deal of trouble and £500 to settle the affair. I have never seen him in such a rage as when he heard that Tom and Cronser had gone off together to Monte Carlo the moment they cashed.